A mother, father, and grandparents are all charged with child abuse after police responding to their home about mistreated pets found two children being forced to live in their own filth. We're going to get some insight into the consequences this family could now face and how investigations like this unfold. This is just a horrific story of abuse, of both, by the way, young children and animals. It happened in a trailer park community in Frankfort, Kentucky. Now, if you're not familiar with Frankfort, despite being the state capital, it's our understanding it's not a large city, population less than 30,000, according to the 2020 census. Much of the area is rural. In fact, when we looked up the address where this happened, a Google Maps car hadn't even gotten close to that neighborhood. So, with that in mind, we have a deputy with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office who responded to a trailer after getting a call about dogs and a cat that appeared to have been mistreated. At the home was an entire family. We had 21-year-old Megan Edgen, her boyfriend, 23-year-old Christian Dunaway, and his parents, Douglas and Terry Dunaway. But also in that home were at least two children, a 2-year-old and a 7-month-old. This is Megan and Christian's children. And I don't know if there's really another way to put it, but these children were found in a condition very similar to that of the dogs that were found in the home. So to get more insight into how this investigation may have been conducted, as well as the punishment these family members could face for this alleged horrific mistreatment of what are defenseless and vulnerable children and pets, I want to bring in Colonel Alex Payne, Chief Deputy for Bullitt County Sheriff's Office, only a couple of counties over from Frankfort. Thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate you taking the time. Just to start off here, if the Sheriff's Office gets a call about an animal that appears to be in distress or possibly mistreatment of a pet, what kind of investigation's done?
Well, first off, let me say thank God that the deputies who responded to that call were very observant of their surroundings because without their ability to do just that, then those children we wouldn't have been made aware of, as law enforcement, and we couldn't have taken any action. So my hat's off to them because they are literally the silver lining uh, in this story. So to be more specific in the answer about your question, you get there, and anytime, as a general rule, we're responding to a call for service that involves neglect, abuse uh, of animals. It's sort of an automatic key that we probably better be keeping our eyes open to see if anything else around there is being neglected or abused. Uh, we had a case here not too long ago here in Bullitt County where we had, double digit animals uh, that were just in horrible shape. The individual was charged, but unfortunately, in that case, in doing our due diligence, there weren't any human beings involved. In this one, uh, this pattern kind of held true. They go there in response, and God bless whoever that caller was to kind of get this because it's the little things. It's just one thing that builds on top of another one. Just like this, we go there looking for abused, neglected animals, and because they've got their thinking caps on, uh, they find other things that are even more cruel and inhumane. The condition that those kids were in. So, yeah, it's not uncommon. And again, thank God we found those kids. We've taken care of those kids. That's the silver lining. What keeps me up at night is how many are out there that we don't know about.
So, according to the deputies at the scene, we have this 2-year-old, this 7-month-old. They were both confined to a seat, one in a baby swing, the other in a car seat. And in an arrest report, the deputy said cruel torture was intentional and that the children had been trapped that way for several days. The children were found strapped to the seats, covered in their own urine and feces, and severely malnourished. The report stated that it appeared the excrement was several days old and that the children had just been left to sit in it. Megan Edgen, the baby's mother, was arrested that day, January 2nd, for criminal child abuse in the first degree of a child 12 or under. A week later, deputies arrested Christian, Douglas, and Terry Dunaway on the same charges. All 4 of them are still listed in custody on the Franklin County Regional Jail website. They're held in lieu of a $100,000 bond each. Colonel Payne, your reaction to that condition of the children and the charges that are now levied against these individuals?
That's We see a lot of stuff in this line of work. It's been my experience over my 40 plus years. One of the things at the top of the list uh, that affects first responders, because there's others there other than just law enforcement, it could be EMS, fire, what have you, are those situations such as you just described that involve children, because they are the most vulnerable, the most innocent, uh, and in a normal course of life, the most precious thing to us, in society as a whole. So when we come upon scenes that you described, it's heartbreaking, uh, but you still have a job to do. And the first thing we do is secure that scene, ensure the safety of all those folks involved. And so there is where I said earlier lies that silver lining, where those children were found. Uh, because hopefully, good Lord willing, they'll never have to go back to a spot like that in their lives. But it sits here and it makes you wonder, because you've got four people in custody that were right there, that saw those conditions, that actually probably lived in those conditions, that caused those conditions, because those little kids didn't crawl up in those things and strap themselves in by themselves.
Right.
They were in the care and custody of people who should have known better. Or at least that's what we hope for, as society in general, that's your purpose as a parent, to take care of your kids. But and I think, as I've said on this program before, there's evil in this world, and that's it. Uh, and again, thank that's an example. But thank God for those folks that got there, that were observant, that one thing led to another, and that, man, they picked up on it. And hopefully, the best that we can do from a law enforcement standpoint is to get these people into the justice system, and hopefully, justice will be served in this case.
When you're talking about, I mean, you make a great point, the defenseless nature of it, right? I mean, there's no
Mhm.
real defense to this. When you're talking about a criminal child abuse in the first degree of a child 12 or under, so defenseless. Is it that, oh, I didn't know, I thought this person was taking care of the children. I didn't know what was going on. I mean, what are the typical explanations or reasons or defenses you see in a case like this?
It'll vary. You'll have sometimes, you'll have one blaming the other, but in this particular case, you've got four people, you got four adults, that are in and around this. You'll hear sometimes, mental health issues. Okay, and like in this case, are all four mentally ill or have some type of diminished capacity where they were incapable for whatever reason? Who knows? That defense, that'll be on the shoulders of whoever it is that is appointed or they get to defend their horrible actions. And neglect, is one of those things. That's a choice. You choose not to take care of fill in the blank. And in this case, you've got dogs, which is bad, and children, which is horrible. And that's to me, again, that's just an example of the evil that's out there in this world and the choices that some people make.
Now, I mentioned that the deputies had originally responded to the home about endangered animals. So the animals were
Yes.
also found. They too
Mhm.
were covered in their own feces. Two dogs were locked in cages, and the rest report reads was informed that two of the dogs appeared to be malnourished and had no food or water available to them. Miss Edgen advised that the white and brown dog was hers and her boyfriend's dog. The dog was in a cage that had no water or food for the dog. The bowl that was in the cage had feces in it, as well as the whole cage did. I was informed by Deputy Purnell that Miss Edgen stated that the dog lives in the cage 24/7, is never taken out. Half the dog is covered in feces and urine to the point of staining the dog. The living conditions for the animals was poor at best. And all three Dunaways and Megan Edgen were charged with cruelty to animals in the second degree, as well as not having the dogs vaccinated against rabies. Colonel, talk to me about why a person would treat animals like this, and also what happens to the animals after they're recovered from such a horrible situation.
In my experience, let me answer the animal question first. In my experience, animal control is called. Like for example, here in Bullitt County, we've got some good people. That it takes special folks to actually go in and take animals out of an environment like that and make the determination Can they be restored? Can these animals be recovered to the point physically, mentally? There's a whole lot that goes into that, and it's a lot more than I think the public, actually knows. And if those dogs, those animals can be saved, they will. Sometimes, unfortunately, they can't. Based on the assessments of the vets and whatnot. But yeah, that's the animal side of that. But it and if you look, throughout history, one of the telltale things that we're taught in law enforcement, even at the academy level, when you first start getting um, indoctrinated into this culture and the people that we hunt and deal with, uh, animal cruelty is usually one of the early warning signs of psychopathic, sociopathic behavior. And so we're taught, early on, as far from an investigative standpoint, that if we find evidence of such behavior, with animals, that's usually a flag goes up, and we probably better be looking deeper to see whether or not that same type of behavior has carried over into any relationships those individuals may have with other human beings. And I think based on what I know, what you've described to me, and what I've read, I think that exists here.
I was going to ask you, what are the next steps in the investigation? What else do authorities want to look at with regard just recovering the children and recovering the animals? How far does this investigation go?
Well, I hate to, it'll go as far as the evidence will take them. If everything can be collected right there, there's nothing that leads them to anything else, any leads that they develop on any type of similar behavior or other criminal behavior, I should say, regarding anything. When those leads all are investigated to the end, all the evidence that they believe needs to be collected, photographed, videoed, whatever it is, and to actually help the Commonwealth prosecute these individuals. Uh, that's the law enforcement job. Now, the Commonwealth will take up that case from that point, and they'll take that and probably put it before a grand jury to see if any indictments are necessary or whatever. But anyway, our job becomes, we're going to be the best witness that we possibly can be for our particular case, and try to get across to the grand jury or jury just exactly what those conditions were, show them the proof that we have of those conditions, and help the Commonwealth by being the best witness that we can, and then let the people of Franklin County decide what's going to happen to those individuals.
My understanding, Colonel, is with respect to the children, because of the
Mhm.
ages, this is a Class B felony. 10 to 20 years
Good,
in prison is my understanding. So it's just a
good.
horrific set of charges, a horrific set of
Mhm.
circumstances. All four suspects, they're due in court for arraignment at the end of February. We'll keep our eye on this case and see
Good
where it
deal.
progresses. But Colonel Payne, thanks so much for taking the time. I know it's not easy talking about these cases, but it just highlights the great work that you and your brothers and sisters in law enforcement do each day to save the people and now the animals in these kinds of situations. But thank you so much for coming on.
You're more than welcome, sir. And again, it's the whole thing about serving and protecting. And again, my hat's off to those deputies in Franklin County for a job well done.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now.